Hello, my name is Amanda, and I'm going to share with you a little bit about my family today and some reflections about today, Holy Saturday, as we come to the end of Lent. Here we are at the end of the 6 weeks, and Holy Saturday it's just weird. It's a weird kind of day. It's after we've had all of this dramatic events of the Last Supper and the crucifixion, and we have the liturgy surrounding that, the Mass of the Last Supper, and Stations of the Cross, and all of this reliving these dramatic events of 2,000 years ago. And today we have the Vigil Mass in the evening, but the whole day is just this sort of waiting. It's like after the crucifixion, when the tomb is full, somehow everything else is empty. So today is just this sort of weird last day before we can really celebrate Easter. And this is actually something that my family is very familiar with. Unfortunately, this is basically what we've done for many, many years with one of our children. Our first child, my husband and I, after we got married, before we got married, we assumed that we would have this house full of children. And when I first got pregnant with our first child, we were so excited, and we told our families, and they were so excited, and it was going to be wonderful. And then just after the second trimester started, we got a diagnosis of multicystic kidney dysplasia, which is a diagnosis that's incompatible with life. That's the polite medical phrase for this person's going to die and there's nothing that we can do about it. So it was very difficult, very trying time. But for the rest of that pregnancy, we did all the things. We went and we got a second opinion, and when the prognosis remained the same, we prayed for a miracle. We asked everybody to ask everybody they knew to please pray for a miracle, and we tried to plan for every possible thing that could happen with birth, and if he would live and if he would not, and all of these different possible contingencies. And then finally, at the end of the pregnancy, a few days after Christmas, in 2007, our son, Timothy Jude, was born, and he was beautiful. And because of all of that planning, we were able to have a lot of the things that were definitely a comfort to us. We were able to have him baptized by a good friend from college who became a priest. He also confirmed him and gave him last rites with viaticum. His grandparents were able to hold him. We got photographs and the little footprints from the hospital, and all of those, wonderful things to hang on to and cherish as good memories. And there was a lot of beauty and a lot of love. But as the doctors predicted, he lived for 38 minutes and then he died. So when I was discharged from the hospital, we had to leave him there. We had to leave him behind. It felt very much that we were leaving him behind. And yet, in a way, he had gone on ahead of us. Right? I'm very confident that he is in heaven and that he has just paved the way for us to meet him again at some later date. So it took a couple of years, a few years after Timothy's death, of healing and working through that grief, to realize that was probably pretty similar to the apostles' first experience with that first Easter. Right? They had, we had our hopes for children, and they had been hoping for the Messiah. And when we got pregnant, we were so excited, and they identified Jesus as the Messiah. They were so excited. They would follow him anywhere. And we had our expectations, as most parents do, that our child would grow and get dirty and talk back to us as a teenager. And they had expected, I don't know exactly what, that the Messiah would end the Roman occupation, maybe, something, not die. Nobody saw that coming. No one expected that Jesus would die, just as we hadn't expected that Timothy would die. And yet, that is what happened. And then here we were, basically the Holy Saturday, after the death and the burial, and that's taken care of, and now, what do you do? So there is definitely that mourning, that grieving that is present in this day as we mourn Jesus' death. But we have an advantage that the apostles didn't have, in that, as Pope St. John Paul II said, we are the Easter people. We know what happens the next day. We know that tomorrow we will celebrate the resurrection, that Jesus has conquered death and has risen from the grave. So we also, in addition to the grieving aspect, we have the resurrection and the coming back to life to look forward to. So it's kind of these two separate, seemingly opposite pieces that are both a part of this day. And Holy Saturday is the most, when it's the most prevalent, the most present to us, these two opposites. And both are very integral to this celebration of Easter, because you can't have the resurrection unless you have the crucifixion. So, so as you're making your preparations for tomorrow, for Easter, your special holiday meal and filling Easter baskets and all of those kind of things that you might spend your day doing, I hope that you will take a few minutes and ponder the mourning that the apostles did and that we do in part, and also joyfully anticipate the resurrection that we will celebrate tomorrow. And then tomorrow, starting tomorrow, I wish you a very happy Easter.